What if I told you the heaviness in your legs, the numbness in your feet, even that slight swelling you've been ignoring, is not a normal part of aging? It's a warning sign. And here's the shocking part. Most people over 60 already have poor leg circulation. But they don't know it yet. Doctors often miss it. People ignore it. And by the time it becomes obvious, the damage is already limiting how far you can walk, how long you can stand, and how independent you can remain. But today, that changes. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover a simple 30-second test you can do right at home to instantly check your leg circulation. And more importantly, I'm going to show you 3 fast, powerful exercises that can start improving your blood flow almost immediately. No equipment, no strain, no long routines, just simple movements that wake your legs back up, restore circulation, and help you feel lighter, steadier, and more in control again. This isn't guesswork. This is what your body has been needing all along. Most people over 60 are living with a gradual but very real decline in blood circulation, and the most dangerous part is not the condition itself. It's the silence with which it develops. There is no dramatic moment, no clear alarm that forces immediate attention. Instead, it creeps in quietly, disguised as ordinary fatigue, mild stiffness, or the assumption that the body is simply slowing down with age. This belief is not only misleading, it is costly. Because what feels minor today is often the early stage of a much larger problem already taking shape beneath the surface. Circulation is not just about moving blood from one place to another. It is the delivery system for oxygen, nutrients, and cellular repair. When this system weakens, every tissue in the lower body begins to operate at a deficit. Muscles receive less oxygen, nerves become more sensitive, and recovery slows down. Over time, this creates a chain reaction. The legs begin to feel heavier, walking becomes less stable, and even short distances start to feel like effort. Many accept this as a natural part of getting older, without realizing they are adapting to a problem that can still be improved. What makes this issue particularly concerning is how early it begins. Long before pain appears, there are subtle signals. Feet feel colder than usual, especially at night. There is a slight tingling that comes and goes. Shoes may feel tighter by the end of the day due to mild swelling. These are not random changes. They are early indicators that blood flow is no longer as efficient as it once was. Ignoring them does not make them disappear. It allows the condition to progress quietly, strengthening its hold over time. There is also a critical misunderstanding that keeps people stuck. Many believe that as long as they can still walk, their circulation must be fine. This assumption delays action. In reality, the body is remarkably good at compensating. It adjusts posture, shifts weight, and reduces stride length to cope with reduced blood flow. These adaptations mask the problem while it continues to develop. By the time walking becomes noticeably difficult, the issue has already advanced beyond its early, most reversible stage. The consequences extend beyond the legs. Poor circulation places additional strain on the heart as it must work harder to push blood through less responsive vessels. This increases fatigue and reduces overall energy levels. It also affects balance and coordination, raising the risk of falls. Independence begins to shrink, not because of a single event, but because of a slow erosion of physical confidence. Everyday activities become calculated efforts rather than natural movements. What is often overlooked is that this decline is not inevitable. The body retains an incredible ability to adapt and recover even later in life. Blood vessels can become more responsive. Muscle activity can stimulate circulation. Small, consistent actions can begin to reverse what has been quietly developing for years. The key difference lies in awareness and timing. Recognizing the signs early creates an opportunity to intervene before the condition becomes deeply limiting. The idea that circulation problems are something to accept rather than address is one of the most damaging beliefs in aging health. It leads to inaction at the exact moment when action is most effective. The earlier the recognition, the greater the potential for improvement. Waiting for severe symptoms removes options. Acting on subtle signs preserves them. This is not about fear, it is about clarity. The body is communicating constantly, offering signals that something needs attention. Understanding those signals changes the outcome. What seems small today holds the power to define mobility, strength, and independence in the years ahead. The difference between decline and control often comes down to noticing what others overlook and choosing to respond while the body is still capable of rapid change. Poor leg circulation is often misunderstood as a minor inconvenience, something that causes a bit of discomfort, maybe some swelling, perhaps a dull ache after a long day. That interpretation is not just incomplete, it is dangerously narrow, because what is happening in the legs is rarely isolated. It is a reflection of a much broader issue within the body's vascular system, and the consequences reach far beyond what is felt on the surface. Blood circulation is the foundation of every physical function that keeps the body active and independent. When circulation in the legs begins to decline, it signals that blood is no longer moving efficiently through the network of vessels that support muscles, nerves, and joints. This inefficiency forces the body to work harder to deliver the same level of oxygen and nutrients. Over time, that strain builds. The heart compensates by increasing effort, the muscles fatigue more quickly, and the nervous system becomes less responsive. What starts as a localized issue gradually becomes a systemic burden. Mobility is one of the first areas affected, but not always in obvious ways. It does not begin with an inability to walk. It begins with subtle changes, shorter steps, slower pace, more frequent pauses. The body instinctively tries to conserve energy because it is no longer receiving what it needs at the cellular level. These adjustments feel natural, even logical, but they are actually signs of a deeper limitation taking hold. Each small compromise in movement reduces strength over time, creating a cycle where less movement leads to weaker muscles, and weaker muscles further reduce circulation. Independence is closely tied to this process. The ability to move freely, to stand with confidence, to walk without hesitation, these are not just physical traits, they are the pillars of self-reliance. When circulation declines, these pillars begin to weaken. Tasks that once felt effortless require planning. Stairs become something to think about. Standing for extended periods becomes uncomfortable. The range of what feels easy starts to shrink. This shift is often gradual, but its impact is profound. It changes how a person interacts with their environment and, over time, how they perceive their own capabilities. There is also a connection that is rarely emphasized enough: the link between leg circulation and overall cardiovascular health. The blood vessels in the legs are part of the same system that supports the heart and brain. When circulation is compromised in one area, it often reflects reduced flexibility and efficiency throughout the entire network. This means the heart must push harder against increased resistance, which can elevate strain over time. It is not simply about tired legs. It is about the efficiency of the entire circulatory system, and how well it supports long-term health. Pain, when it eventually appears, is often the tipping point that finally draws attention. But by then, the body has already been compensating for an extended period. The discomfort is not the beginning of the problem, it is the result of prolonged imbalance. Muscles deprived of oxygen produce more fatigue signals. Nerves that are not properly nourished become more sensitive. Inflammation can increase as tissues struggle to recover. Each of these factors contributes to a growing sense that something is wrong, yet the root cause has often been present for years. What makes this situation especially critical is how easily it is dismissed. There is a tendency to normalize these changes, to attribute them to aging rather than recognizing them as modifiable conditions. This mindset delays intervention at a time when the body is still highly responsive to improvement. Circulation is not a fixed trait. It is dynamic, influenced by movement, muscle activity, and daily habits. Even small changes in how the body is used can have a measurable impact on how blood flows through it. Understanding poor leg circulation as a whole body issue changes the way it is approached. It shifts the focus from temporary relief to long-term function. It highlights the importance of early action, not as a reaction to pain, but as a strategy to preserve mobility and independence. The body does not suddenly lose its ability to circulate blood effectively. It transitions into that state over time, providing multiple opportunities to intervene along the way. Recognizing the true scope of this issue is what transforms it from something to tolerate into something to address with intention. The legs are not just supporting movement, they are reflecting the condition of the system that sustains life itself. When circulation improves, it is not just the legs that benefit. Energy increases, recovery improves, and the entire body begins to function with greater efficiency. This is not about managing discomfort, it is about restoring a level of vitality that many assume is no longer within reach. The body rarely fails without first offering clear signals, yet one of the most common mistakes after 60 is dismissing those signals as harmless signs of aging. This belief creates a dangerous blind spot. Because long before any serious limitation appears, the body has already begun communicating that something is changing beneath the surface. The problem is not that the signs are absent. The problem is that they are misunderstood, minimized, or completely ignored. In the early stages of declining circulation, the symptoms are subtle by design. They do not disrupt daily life in a dramatic way. Instead, they show up as small inconsistencies, moments that are easy to brush off, a slight tingling in the feet after sitting too long, a sense of heaviness in the legs that wasn't there before, feet that feel colder than the rest of the body, even in a warm room. These are not random experiences, they are physiological messages indicating that blood flow is becoming less efficient. What makes these signs particularly deceptive is their timing. They often appear intermittently, not constantly. One day everything feels normal, the next day there is a noticeable difference. This inconsistency creates doubt. It encourages the belief that nothing serious is happening because the discomfort is not persistent. But this pattern is exactly how early circulation issues behave. The vascular system is struggling to maintain balance, succeeding at times and falling short at others. Each fluctuation is evidence of a system under stress, not a system functioning optimally. There is also a powerful psychological factor at play. Many individuals expect some level of physical decline as they age, and this expectation shapes how symptoms are interpreted. Instead of questioning new sensations, they are accepted as inevitable. This acceptance feels reasonable, even responsible, but it comes at a cost. It removes urgency. It delays investigation. It allows manageable conditions to evolve into limiting ones simply because they were never addressed when the body first raised concern. Another overlooked signal is the change in recovery time. After simple activities, the legs may take longer to feel normal again. What used to resolve in minutes now lingers for hours. This is not just fatigue. It is a reflection of reduced efficiency in delivering oxygen and removing metabolic waste from the muscles. Circulation is directly responsible for recovery, and when it slows down, the body's ability to bounce back is compromised. This change is gradual, often subtle, but it is one of the clearest indicators that something deeper is occurring. Skin changes can also reveal early circulation problems, though they are rarely connected to vascular health in everyday thinking. Dryness, slight discoloration, or a change in texture in the lower legs and feet are not merely cosmetic concerns. They can indicate that tissues are not receiving adequate nourishment. Blood carries essential nutrients that maintain skin integrity. When that supply is reduced, the skin reflects it. These changes are often treated superficially without addressing the underlying cause. The danger of ignoring these early warning signs lies in how the body adapts. It does not immediately stop functioning. It compensates. Muscles adjust their workload. Posture shifts subtly, and movement patterns change to reduce strain. These adaptations create the illusion that everything is under control, while in reality, the body is working harder to maintain a lower level of performance. Over time, these compensations become the new normal, and the original baseline is forgotten. By the time more obvious symptoms appear, persistent pain, significant swelling, noticeable weakness, the condition has already progressed beyond its earliest stage. At that point, improvement is still possible, but it requires more effort and consistency. The window for easy correction has narrowed. This is why early recognition is not just helpful, it is critical. Acting on subtle signals preserves options and prevents unnecessary decline. The body is not unpredictable. It follows patterns, and it communicates through changes that can be observed and understood. The key is to shift the perspective from passive acceptance to active awareness. Aging does not eliminate the body's ability to signal imbalance. It only changes how those signals are perceived. When early signs are taken seriously, they become opportunities rather than inconveniences. Understanding that these small sensations are not trivial but informative changes the entire approach to health after 60. It replaces assumption with attention. It transforms uncertainty into clarity. Most importantly, it restores a sense of control. Because when the body speaks early and is heard clearly, the path forward remains open, and the possibility of maintaining strength, mobility, and independence stays firmly within reach. There is a critical moment in the progression of circulation decline where the body is still highly responsive, still capable of rapid improvement, yet most people remain unaware that this window even exists. This is the stage where a simple, precise action can reveal what years of assumption have concealed. Not a complicated medical procedure, not an expensive test, but a direct interaction with your own body that takes less than a minute and provides immediate insight into how well your blood is truly flowing. The value of a 30-second self-test lies in its clarity. It removes guesswork. It replaces vague feelings with observable evidence. Many people rely on how they feel to judge their health, but sensation alone can be misleading. The body adapts, compensates, and normalizes dysfunction over time. A test, however simple, creates a measurable response. It shows how quickly your system reacts, how efficiently blood returns to where it is needed, and whether the underlying mechanisms are functioning as they should. When circulation is strong, the body responds quickly and decisively. Blood moves freely through the vessels, tissues receive oxygen without delay, and any temporary restriction is corrected almost immediately. This responsiveness is a sign of flexibility within the vascular system. It indicates that the vessels can expand, contract, and adjust to changing demands with ease. This is what keeps movement smooth, recovery fast, and energy levels stable. When circulation is compromised, the response tells a different story. There is a delay. The body takes longer to restore balance. What should happen almost instantly becomes sluggish, incomplete, or inconsistent. This delay is not random. It reflects reduced efficiency in the pathways that carry blood through the legs and back toward the heart. It shows that the system is underperforming even if daily activities still feel manageable. What makes this test so powerful is not just the result itself, but what it represents. It is an early checkpoint. It gives you access to information that is usually only considered after symptoms become obvious. Instead of waiting for discomfort to dictate action, you gain the ability to act based on function. This shift from reactive to proactive awareness is what separates gradual decline from controlled improvement. There is also an important psychological effect that comes with this kind of immediate feedback. It changes perception. It replaces uncertainty with something tangible. When you see how your body responds, you no longer rely on assumptions about aging or guesswork about what is normal. You have a reference point. You understand where you stand, and that understanding creates direction. It turns concern into focus and hesitation into intention. This moment of awareness is where opportunity lives, because circulation, unlike many other aspects of the body, is highly adaptable. It responds quickly to the right kind of stimulation. Blood flow can be improved, vessels can become more responsive, and efficiency can increase with consistent input. But this process begins with recognition. Without knowing there is a problem, there is no reason to change behavior. The test creates that reason in a way that is immediate and undeniable. It is also important to understand that this is not about labeling yourself as having a problem. It is about identifying potential before it becomes limitation. A slower response does not define your future. It simply indicates where attention is needed. The body is not fixed in its current state. It is constantly adjusting, constantly responding to how it is used. The test is not a diagnosis. It is a signal, a starting point that guides the next step. What most people miss is that early detection dramatically reduces the effort required to improve. When the system is only slightly compromised, small, targeted actions can produce noticeable results in a relatively short time. Waiting until the issue becomes severe increases the complexity of recovery. It demands more time, more effort, and often more intervention. Acting early preserves simplicity. It keeps the solution within reach of everyday habits rather than medical necessity. This is where control is reclaimed, not through complex strategies or overwhelming routines, but through awareness and timely response. A 30-second test may seem insignificant at first glance, but its impact lies in what it reveals and what it makes possible. It brings hidden information to the surface, and in doing so, it opens the door to change before the body is forced into it. The difference between those who maintain mobility and those who gradually lose it often begins with a single moment of recognition, a willingness to check, to observe, to understand rather than assume. The body provides the feedback. The test captures it. What happens next determines whether circulation continues to decline quietly or begins to improve with purpose and direction. The assumption that improving circulation requires long workouts, intense effort, or physically demanding routines is one of the most limiting beliefs holding people back after 60. It creates hesitation before action even begins. The reality is far more precise and far more effective. Circulation responds best not to duration, but to activation. It is not about how long you move. It is about how intentionally you stimulate the mechanisms that drive blood flow through the legs. At the center of this process is muscle contraction. Every time a muscle in the lower body tightens and releases, it acts as a natural pump, pushing blood upward against gravity and back toward the heart. This function is especially important in the legs, where blood must travel the greatest distance. When movement becomes limited or less frequent, this pumping action weakens. Blood begins to pool, pressure builds in the lower extremities, and circulation slows. The solution is not to overwhelm the body with effort, but to reactivate this pumping system in a controlled and consistent way. This is where targeted micro-movements become powerful. These are small, deliberate actions designed to engage specific muscles without placing strain on joints or requiring extended energy output. They are efficient because they focus directly on the physiological process that needs support. Instead of exhausting the body, they stimulate it. Instead of creating fatigue, they create flow. This distinction is critical, especially for those who may already feel limited by stiffness, discomfort, or reduced endurance. What makes these movements particularly effective is their accessibility. They can be performed while sitting, standing, or even lying down. They do not require equipment, special environments, or large blocks of time. This removes the most common barriers to consistency. When an action is simple to perform, it becomes easier to repeat, and repetition is what drives adaptation. The circulatory system improves not from occasional effort, but from regular, sustained stimulation over time. Another advantage of micro-movements is how quickly they produce feedback. Unlike longer routines that may take time to show results, these targeted actions often create an immediate sense of change. The legs begin to feel lighter. Warmth returns to areas that previously felt cold. There is a noticeable shift in how the muscles respond. This immediate feedback reinforces the behavior. It confirms that the body is responding, which increases the likelihood of continued practice. Safety is also a defining factor. High-intensity or prolonged exercise can place unnecessary stress on joints, especially in individuals who may already have underlying discomfort or limited mobility. Micro-movements reduce this risk. They allow the body to engage without overload. This creates a sustainable approach, one that can be maintained daily without fear of injury or excessive fatigue. Consistency becomes achievable because the effort required remains within a comfortable range. There is also a deeper physiological benefit that extends beyond the immediate improvement in blood flow. Regular activation of the muscles supports the health of the blood vessels themselves. It encourages flexibility within the vessel walls, improves responsiveness to changes in demand, and supports more efficient circulation over time. This is not just a temporary boost, it is a gradual strengthening of the system that carries blood throughout the body. What many overlook is that inactivity is not just the absence of movement, it is the absence of stimulation to systems that rely on movement to function properly. The circulatory system in the legs is one of those systems. Without regular activation, it becomes less efficient. With targeted activation, it begins to recover. The difference between decline and improvement is often measured in small, repeated actions rather than large, infrequent efforts. The simplicity of this approach does not reduce its effectiveness. In fact, it enhances it. By focusing on what the body actually needs rather than what is commonly assumed, the process becomes more direct and more reliable. It removes unnecessary complexity and replaces it with clarity. Each movement has a purpose. Each repetition contributes to a larger outcome. Over time, these small actions accumulate, creating a noticeable shift in how the legs feel and function. This is where control becomes practical. Not through extreme measures or unrealistic expectations, but through manageable, repeatable actions that align with how the body works. Circulation improves when the right signals are sent consistently. Micromovements provide those signals in the most efficient way possible. They restore activity to a system that has become understimulated, and in doing so, they begin to reverse a process that many assume cannot be changed. The effectiveness of this method lies in its precision. It does not rely on effort alone. It relies on understanding how the body responds and delivering exactly what is needed to support that response. When movement is applied in this way, it becomes more than exercise. It becomes a direct intervention, a way to influence the internal systems that determine mobility, comfort, and long-term independence.